So I came up with the name. People always ask me, why'd you come up with that name? And it's not anything prophetic or sophisticated. It was like, for whatever reason, I like the sound of the word carbon. And then I'm like, all right, what can I make up to connect the dots, right? Going back to the whole idea of connecting the dots, that's where the thread comes in. And then I remember the first few times I told that story, I made it sound a lot more sophisticated than that. And they were like, oh yeah, like that's dope. I'm like, yeah, I just pulled that out of my ass. But it stuck, and I didn't want that to be a barrier of me not starting, because I had to start. My back was against the wall. Like, it was a lot of stuff kind of connected to how this needed to be and how successful this needed to be. And so once I kind of made that switch, it's interesting how the universe works. Once you commit internally to something, everything else around you starts to bend to that will. And I noticed that because I was still on the fence of trying to do the agency thing, but I was still interviewing for jobs, and I wasn't getting any clients on the new agency front, and I wasn't landing a position that I wanted, and because I wasn't motivated or passionate about it. But once I kind of made that switch of, yo, I'm gonna try to build an agency, everything else started to just flow. And once I made that decision, it was probably, I don't know, maybe like 2-3 weeks later, we landed our first client, and it was like a small project. It was a website deal, but it gave me so much pride and joy, where I was like, yo, damn, I saw that QuickBooks notification come in after I sent out that first invoice. And I was like, yo, this is it. This is it. And I just never looked back. And I just started to rely on what I knew how to do best, what I knew my strong suits were. And that was like connecting the dots, talking to people, building relationships. So I just went all in, man. I just went all in, and I just never looked back. Anybody that was willing to have a conversation with me about what we did or what I did at the time, I was down. And even with that first project that we got in, like, I didn't make any money off of that for real. Like, I sold the project without having the person that was going to fulfill it. Like, it was a website and I didn't have a developer, right? And so I went out and I found a developer, and the developer ended up I ended up paying them maybe like 70-80% of that budget, but I just wanted the case study. I didn't care about making a whole bunch of money. I just knew I just needed to build that momentum and that confidence to say, yo, like, I can really do this. And then once that happened, then the next thing happens, then the next thing happens. And you just start to build up that momentum and that confidence along the way. And again, it was like anybody who was willing to talk about what we did and how we could help them, it was just a conversation. And I would just show up. Can't tell you how many deals I lost from being overexcited to talk about the things that we do and to talk about all the latest and greatest trends in marketing. I can't tell you how many people had looked at me in a glazed over fashion because I was just word vomiting stuff. And I learned the hard way, like just failing in public or failing in front of people or standing up in front of a group of people and not being able to communicate your message clearly, and you just kind of lose folks. Like I had to go through those struggles because it was different, and it was more, just as much as it was me refining the pitch, it was also the exercise of me rebuilding my confidence. When you get kicked out of something like that, it rocks your identity in a way to where it's like, damn, I'm not good enough. And you got to work through that conversation and that self-talk to try to get back to a point where you have confidence to do it again.